And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special edition draft night on the African American Athlete. I'm Ricky Hampton with my great friend and frat brother, Mike Robinson. It's Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing well. We're joined by a great friend, renowned sports writer and author, JD Harris. JD is here to talk a little NBA with us and NBA draft with us. JD, first and foremost, brother, thank you for joining us. We always love it when you come on with us and share.
Likewise.
Hey, and JD, I'm glad you're here. But I don't know a damn thing about this draft tonight. And there was a time I could tell you at least the names of everybody that was going on in the first round. And you've covered the NBA for years, and I still follow the NBA. Why is it I don't know these folks?
One thing is because now so many guys are leaving school, after 1 year. We don't even know who they are, half of them. A lot more international players are being drafted. It used to be guys played 3 or 4 years. Tim Duncan played 4 years. Michael Jordan played 3 years. Karl Malone played 3 years, I think. And a lot of those great players, they were able to hit the ground running when they got into the NBA because they had a lot of experience. They had played in Final Fours. They had played in NCAA tournaments. A lot of these kids now, like you look at the Rutgers kids, the 2 freshmen, not only did they not play in the tournament, they didn't even have a winning season. And I hear that they're number 2 and 3 picks in the draft. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Right. And you're talking about Dylan Hopper and Ace Bailey. And Mike, the only reason I know those guys because they played in Rutgers, so I saw them some playing in the Big Ten. And I know you did too. And I'm like, damn, if I'm AD, I'm going to have a conversation with the coach. Because they were 8 and 12 in the Big Ten, 12 and 17. I'm like, coach, why we got the two of the 5 best players in the country, and we 12 and 17?
Yeah. That was their personal showcase. My understanding that was just an opportunity for them to show their game to the league. So that's what they did, and the coach allowed it, and you see what the result was.
Well, you want to know what's funny for me, and this also relates to John because this is around the time we met. Of course, the '94 draft is one of my favorites because that's the one I actually attended down in Naptown, and we had the number 1 pick. That was the big dog. Yep. And a funny story is this: I was almost involved with the ending of Grant Hill's career in the beginning because we had the draft and all that stuff. Then everything's over, and Grant was like talking to somebody walking backwards. I was like, oh, Grant, watch out. His foot almost like stepped on my foot. I was like, man, how crazy that would have been if I would have, ended this dude's career like that. But he would end it himself because he's the one walking backwards, not looking. Another situation where I was worried is one game, my good friend Anthony Mason, we're at a game. He said, hey, Mike, take a shot, man. I said, dude, I got a suit on, man. I can't take a shot. Let's go ahead. I shot it and missed it. And I said, and it almost hit Patrick Ewing's hand. I said, man, I could have broken that dude's finger. But anyway, so then the 96 draft, so like I said, around this time, John and I are like back and forth because, they had Grant Hill in Detroit with him, and I had Glenn. So we always do I think he would come on my show once a month. And I say, hey, man, what's the deal going on in Detroit with Grant? And then, what's going on here with Dog? And I remember saying, everybody's like calling the show saying, oh, man, we should have picked Grant Hill. And I'm like, explain to me why. I said, this dude was a player of the year, 30 points a game in the Big Ten, and that's what you needed. You needed a scorer. Grant wasn't known as a scorer at Duke. And I said, he became a facilitator. They made him point forward at Detroit. So then I said, I guarantee you guys, by the time we reach the All-Star break, Big Dog will be averaging 20 points a game. And that's what he was doing. Ended up with 22 points a game. Bucks 1 game away from the playoffs, but somehow still didn't get the Rookie of the Year. So
he was a great player. He was an underrated player. Grant was the people's choice, basically. He was a really good player, but he was the people's choice.
But not only the people's choice, he had the most votes most All-Star votes out of every player in the league.
That's right.
The rookie. So yeah,
That's right.
but the other draft was the '96 draft because this one was a bizarre one. I think I told you the story, Ricky. So I don't have my show now that John used to come on. It was called Sports Talk, Sunday Night Sports Talk and Primetime Sports Talk. But now I'm on the FM station, the hip hop station, and I'm on their morning show. And they were talking to me about the draft. And they had a psychic on that day. The psychic said, "So Michael, is it possible that the Bucks could draft?" She said, Stephon Marbury, and Ray Allen. I said, "No, there's no way they can do that unless they traded away to Big Dog or somebody like that." Listen, I would hate that. So then the draft comes, Bucks draft Stephon Marbury, trade him immediately for Ray Allen. I said, all point.
Who's that, Miss Cleo? Was that Miss Cleo? Who was
No,
that?
it wasn't Miss Cleo. Her name was Sharon with a C. Yeah, she was always on the morning show. Like I said, V100. Shout out to V100 in Milltown.
But hey, we got JD Harris on here, our great friend and author, and you know, I always got your book here on my desk, man. The author of Tomlin, The Soul of a Football Coach. But we're talking hoops tonight. But this, I just love his whole persona, and he's a grown damn man coaching pro football.
Well, let's not forget, Ricky, he's also our D9 brother.
Oh, and
that's right. That's right.
And you can, and since we got it up here, you get this book anywhere, right, JD?
That's right. And the paperback edition coming out in the fall.
Yeah, and that'll be updated.
Yes, updated chapters. Yes.
Absolutely. Hey, but JD, I want to talk to you about your latest prose, which appeared on Substack. And if you're watching the NBA draft tonight, you need to go to Substack and look up JD Harris and read this piece that he wrote today, because it breaks down what we should be looking for. Maybe some of these teams ought to be reading this thing tonight. It's on it's JD Harris Jr. Substack JD Harris Jr. Substack.com. The title of it, John, is 10 Debts, Cooper Flagg's Generation #1 Draft Pick. And a lot of our viewers have seen you because you've been on here before. But for those who haven't, JD, tell us about Substack and tell us what went into you putting this piece together pre-draft.
I just decided to put it out, before the draft. There's so much talking about it. And I look at these things, I keep these numbers from time to time. I say, you know what, let me just put it out there. Some people maybe give them a different perspective on the draft, more insight into less hype and more just reality as far as how good some of these players are. I mean, the NBA Finals, I didn't see, I maybe saw one Oklahoma City game all year. I never really watched them that much. They weren't really on. It was the Lakers on every other day. I didn't really see them that much. So
and Indiana wasn't on either, right?
Yeah, exactly. So SAG, I'd heard about him. I never really saw him play. I saw him more play in the playoffs than I ever saw his whole career.
Yeah.
And that's the case with the draft a lot of times. There's going to be players that are going to be drafted probably lower than they should. People go, oh, this guy's a sleeper, but if you study Tendex and other things, maybe he's not a sleeper. We just don't see him that much. We don't hear about him. Yeah. And I think that's why people are so negative. I hated it. I really liked Oklahoma City. I'm not an Oklahoma City fan, but I just like their whole thing. And people are like, oh, they're calling Shea the free throw merchant and all that. I'm like, dude, these dudes play defense. They play like a team. And Shea shoots a mid-range jumper. We say that's gone, right? That's what he does. He shoots mid-range jumpers. Everybody else is firing up threes. He shoots mid-range jumpers, and we're like, we don't even realize what we're looking at.
Right. And Tendex, this is something, a group you've been working with really for several years now. Dave Heron out of University.
Dave's kind of turned it over to me. He doesn't really do that anymore. He writes more spiritual books. But I learned, he taught me step by step how to do it. I used it, Rick, when you and I used to work together in Michigan. he taught me how to use it, and I used it when I covered the Detroit Pistons. And it's curious. I wanted to see, because I really for years maybe I was covering the NFL, and I kind of totally forgotten about Tendex, and I started doing it again last year with the NCAA tournament, and I was amazed at still how accurate it is, how it predicts games, predicts players. It predicted that going into the playoffs, Oklahoma City by far had the best team. I didn't know. I knew they had a good record. Their record was so good that it's number 4 overall since 1980. They had the fourth best regular season record going into the playoffs among teams that won championships. That was before it started. So what they did was not a fluke. They had an unbelievable season, and they lived up to the hype. They had some tough games. But, hey, those great Lakers teams, how many times they have to go 7 games or 6 games in a playoff series with the Celtics or whoever? I mean, you're in the finals. You're not going to blow everybody out. Games are going to be close. Indiana could have easily won that series. I mean, it was a great series, I thought.
Up until Halliburton got hurt.
Yeah, I really hated to see that. Like to see them just finish it out.
Right.
The one thing I did find, because really Indiana, when I wrote a piece for Substack earlier, Indiana basically shot a bit higher percentage, averaged more rebounds, averaged more assists, and it shot a better 3-point percentage. But the big difference was, and I noticed this when I did the stats going into the playoffs, Oklahoma City, most teams have a lot of turnovers, don't have as many steals. Oklahoma City almost has as many steals as they have turnovers. They did it in the regular season, and they did it in the playoffs. I mean, by a huge margin over like everybody else. And it made a difference, especially in Game 7. They had how many? They had 23 turnovers, 32 points. I think Indiana had 8 turnovers, 10 points. That's the difference in the game. And because statistically, and they scored, maybe 5 or 6 more points than Indiana did in the whole series. That's how close it was. So it came down to they got more possessions, right? And they scored more points, a few more points, because they had more possessions. I don't know if teams value that enough. That's an incredible stat to have almost as many steals as turnovers. That's so many possessions, and you're not turning it over to the other team. It's not a stat that people look at, but when I looked at for the finals, to me that was like, and obviously, and our guy getting hurt in Game 7, those are the factors to me in Indiana not winning that series.
Well, think about this, Ricky. The first game, that was the only lead Indiana had when Halliburton hit that jumper.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
So that could have deflated Oklahoma City. And as a matter of fact, when they had a chance to go up 3-1,
that was it.
They have to look back to that and say, man, we would have never been in this.
That was it. That was it. That was the series.
Maybe Halliburton doesn't go out like this if we win Game 4 and take care of business at home, because you gave home court right back to them, all the momentum, and then because Shea wasn't even having a good game. Then I
thought something was wrong with him in that game. He looked like he was playing in slow motion.
Exactly.
They got him in this. They got him.
Yep. Shea did not shoot well the other night. I think it was 8 of 25.
Yeah, he played very poor.
12 assists. But JD sent me a piece he did many years ago on TJ McConnell. and I'm telling you guys, if I was covering that series and the Pacers won, he was getting my vote for MVP. Because he turned a couple of games. I guess it was game 1 where they came back. He turned that game around for them. And but the problem with TJ McConnell, he got a time stamp on it. He gets about 20 minutes. At 22 minutes, he can't beat me playing ball. Right. For 20 minutes.
That's a great point.
That's
the same thing I was saying in the game. I said, you know what? Those little segments when he was getting 5 steals, assists, and all that. I said, it's a little different when now more responsibility is on you.
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden, the other team said, "All right, dude, you got off on us, but we're watching you now."
But to JD's credit, I thought the dude belonged at the Y with us playing ball, but you called him an NBA player when he was in college.
Yeah, I was working in Pittsburgh, and I was doing Tendex, and I had a conversation with Dave Herron, and he told me about T.J. McConnell. Hadn't even gone to any Duquesne game. Little short, little white guy.
Yeah.
His father was his high school coach, but Dave told me, he said, "Hey, he's got a low first round, second round rate." This was like when he was a sophomore at Duquesne. He ended up transferring, going to Arizona.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was introduced to him. And of course, Sean Miller was the coach then. Sean Miller, a Pittsburgh point guard. That's why he liked him. No, I'm not saying
he knew his dad. He probably knew his dad.
Right, exactly.
He probably knew his dad. Sean's dad was like a longtime high school coach. So they probably knew him, And I remember going to my editors. They didn't want to run the story. TJ McCullough, Pitt didn't even recruit. What are you talking about? I said, hey, I'm just going to write the story. I never thought he was going to. It said he had the potential to play in the NBA when he was a sophomore. So that's what Tendex can do. Tendex can identify a guy who you're not even thinking about. Now, he may not end up being that, but it let you at least know this guy has potential, has NBA potential. That's what I like about Tendex. It points out guys that you would never think about, and keep your eye on.
He would have got my vote, Mike, if they'd have won that thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, some people look at it that way, but they don't look at the. I mean, that's how Iguodala won, because they said, "Hey, he came in, it changed everything," and then ridiculously said he D'd up LeBron, and he still averaged like 50. But anyway, that's the reason why they did it, because he brought a spark. But the TJ McConnell situation. So I was doing a story for AP Radio, giving them a shout out, and it was whenever Arizona was always like a top seed, so they were playing Stanford. So I did the game, and I remember McConnell had a pretty good game, because in the report I filed, I did like a 1-minute voicer, and I remember mentioning him scoring this amount of points and assists and all that stuff. And I said, so when he was in the NBA, I said, man, I remember that guy, and he was a little feisty guy, but I was like, man, and he actually does pretty well.
He's in the league 12 years. This is
right, exactly.
Yeah. And he plays, like I said, for that 15, 20 minutes. He's a really good player. We used to have a guy here in Detroit, Ish Smith. He played Ish Smith 15 minutes. He was like the best point guard in the league.
Yeah.
He gets to 16. Damn, get him out of here. But let's get to this draft, man, that's coming up in a few minutes. What caught me, and I know this guy's a good player. I got to see him. One of the few players I think everybody knows in the draft, JD Cooper Flagg out of Duke. Yeah. Were you surprised at the extraordinary Tendex rating he produced? Right there with Michael Jordan's when you go back to 1984.
It's high. It's well, one thing that I explained in the article is that what you do is, he's a freshman, so you got to try to project. So some of that rating is a projection of what he would have done over the next 3 years if he had stayed in college. We assign a percentage to the rate of improvement every year. So his rating's high. I mean, and this is what it was projected that he would have gone to if he had stayed in college. But his rating was high all year. It was high before I did the projections. I know some people aren't that big on him. And that's the thing about Tendex. You take the person, I mean, whether I like him or not,
right?
Whether I think he's the next Larry Bird or not, he's not. But it doesn't matter. What Tendex says is that far and away, he's the best player in the draft. Some people say they thought the Rutgers guys were better. Maybe they will be. I don't know. But projection-wise, it's not even close. It really isn't. Which you don't usually have this big of a gap with a player. The way Flagg has this year. He is far and away the best player. I don't know if people really understand that or realize that. I think they know he's good. I think they know he's number one. But he potentially will be dominant going to a Dallas team that already has veterans in place. All he's got to do is step in and just play his game. You don't have to do anything special, at least not right away. And they're going to be with him there when they get Kyrie Irving back and Anthony Davis can stay off the sideline. I mean, they can go in there and contend for a championship the next year or two.
Well, and my thing is that with injury-prone Anthony Davis and even Kyrie's injury-prone lately too, I
Yeah.
mean, he can be playing, have significant minutes right away
Yep.
and have a lot of responsibility right away because look here, man, we drafted you as I don't want to say Messiah, I don't want to get too crazy, but as a future legend in this Southwest part of the country. So, you know, sometimes you come into a situation, everything's on you. Like LeBron had everything on him and
Yeah.
had hitters on the team. Whereas he's coming into where you got a guy that was all NBA with AD. You got a guy that hit the biggest shot in Cleveland history. And in some annals. I don't want to say the wrong thing here. But some annals, he has the biggest shot in all of history because that was probably considered one of the most competitive and exciting finals ever. So for him to hit that big shot, even though he almost blew it right after that when he tried to dribble under the hoop, I don't know what he's doing. But that right there, so that right there, you got two guys that have been through the fire, so and won championships with LeBron. So I think Cooper is coming to a really good situation, but he needs to be ready just in case it's only him because these guys can get hurt like that. And it's sad to say, but it is. I mean, even Kyrie, the year before he hit that big shot, gets hurt because they go to overtime. If they didn't go to overtime, LeBron hits that shot and wins it. Will we leave him out?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, because right when they went to overtime, Klay Thompson knee to knee and it fractured his kneecap. But even in that year, people don't remember. Remember they had the concussion protocol was a big deal back then, right? So one of the series, Steph Curry got flipped over and hit his head, didn't even put him in the protocol. I think Golden State said, no way we're going to lose this guy. Then Klay gets kneed in the head, throws up after the game, still no protocol. And I'm like, man, the Warriors were really, they said, we're going to say, forget the rules. We're going to make sure these guys stay on the court because we want to win our first championship since 1975, which is 4 years. So, I just think Cooper has a lot, but to come in and have good players like that, it's kind of like I had somebody argue me like, well, Carmelo had a better rookie year than LeBron. I said, yeah, but he also had a better team. They said, what do you mean? I said, he had Miller. Andre Miller was one of the best point guards in the league.
One of my all-time favorite players.
That's what I'm saying. And you had Camby, and you had a couple other players. And they said, well, their record was about the same as Cleveland. I said, yeah, but those guys were hurt. They came back. They were instantly better than Cleveland. Whereas LeBron's dealing with Ricky Davis and them doing all this stuff and hating on him. You listen to some of those interviews when he said, oh, he's just another player. Then
here's a hypothetical. What if Andre Miller had been able to play with LeBron? That would have been nice. That would have been nice. Two players right there.
I know. But the thing about it though is that you had his teammates, basically it's kind of like belittling him, and then Boozer ended up leaving.
That's why they had Boozer too. They had talent.
Boozer left. I'm like, why would you go to Utah? You got a chance to play LeBron.
They had talent. They had enough talent. You got Boozer, Miller, and LeBron. That's enough talent.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah. I want to get back to this thing, this your top 14 10-dex, because I mentioned Ace Bailey, who's in everybody's top 5. He's not in your top 14, JD. And there's some controversy with Bailey for saying he didn't want to work out. From your sports writing perspective, do you think that will impact him tonight?
I think somebody will take him high. I mean, to me, that's definitely a red flag. Now his teammate Tendex thinks much more highly of him, but Bailey, his rating is as good as 10 or 15 other guys. You know what I'm saying? They just don't have his name. You could get a better play than Ace Bailey, without the headache, without the problems, but they don't have Ace Bailey's hype or what have you. That's the thing about Tendex. I don't know. Ace Bailey saw him play 2 or 3 times. So what do I do there? I look at what Tendex. Tendex says, if you look at the draft from just by pure, just the plus minus numbers, Tendex, I have him 29 out of 30.
Wow.
Now,
So
And,
make of that
and,
what
and
you will.
Mike, something's wrong because the team, like I said, they were 12 and 17.
well, here's my question: is that Damon Bailey's son? No.
No, but the other,
no,
but
no.
what's name Harper's son is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's not.
Because it would have been ironic if it's Damon Bailey's son, because Damon Bailey at that draft I went to,
I don't know.
huge
Damon
ball.
might have hooked up with a sister. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. We'll let that go. Yeah, that's the last Bailey I
game. He has a brother in his game when he played.
Well, hey, Rex Chapman.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Rex Chapman. I remember I got to Tennessee State. He was still at Owensboro in high school, and I remember saying, "Who was this guy?" And then next thing I know, he went to Kentucky, and that could have been a bigger deal with that whole controversy when they got on probation. Sean Kemp, Eric Manuel, and I forgot the other player. They would have been legendary if they'd have got them all together. But that became a
they always had talent back then, man.
Right. Yeah.
They always had
became
talent.
a huge fiasco, and Sean Kemp ended up going somewhere else, and then eventually going to the Sonics. But that team would have been one of the best.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Jenny, I'm looking up another guy here. You have at 11, almost breaking into the. I'm sorry, at 10, breaking into the top 10, a senior. But Tendex, you have Tendex having graded as the number 10 player. Ryan Kalkbrenner Sr. I have no idea where he played college ball.
Played at Creighton.
Great. Okay.
Creighton. Creighton had very good tournament teams. I saw him. I watched him play for 2 years. Is he a franchise center? No, but he can block shots, rebound, score in the post. He's a good player. He's a good center.
I tell you, somebody you got here too that's getting some love. Johnny Broom from Auburn.
Yeah,
I like him. Big body, clever with the ball in the post. I wonder about him on the defensive end against all these great athletes.
Yeah, that's the thing that you have to weigh. You take his rating, then you weigh it against, like you just said, is he going to get abused defensively? Can he move? Are they going to take him out because when they go to small lineups, he can't guard anybody? Those are factors. But he's a guy that maybe plays 20 minutes a game, and gives you that energy for those 20 minutes, low post scoring and the rebound and things that he's not a shot blocker, but he can rebound and score,
All right. Well, for me, of course, you got two situations here. We got Knipple, who played with our guy from Maine, out of Milwaukee, Milwaukee area. So, what do you think about him? I didn't realize he was 6'7", but what do you realize with him?
I mean, he's got a very good rating. I mean, he can shoot. He's got good size. I don't know if he can play point, but he can handle the ball. Tendex loves him. Okay. So I'm going to go. He's going to get picked top 10.
Right.
So I don't really consider those Tendex victories because it's pretty close to where he's, going to go anyway. It just kind of gives you an indication this guy can play. It's more than just him going to Duke. He can play. I like his game. Got to get with the right team. Got to get with the right team.
All right, and then of course the guy covered and saw his whole 4 years of his maturation coming from France, and then now playing. So yeah, Maxime Renaud. So and he, if it wasn't for Cooper, probably would have been Player of the Year in the ACC.
Yeah, you tell me about. I saw him play highlights. You saw him play. You could tell us about him. I mean, Tendex loves him, but you can tell us more about him.
Yeah, the thing about it is that he matured so much. That, first it's like, okay, this is tall guy from France, okay. And then all of a sudden he started to develop a jumper. And then he had the low post game, blocking shots. And he had I think he had the most double-doubles all year, and he had a streak going. So he had a really good senior year. But unfortunately, in Stanford and Cal's first year in the ACC, there's a flag posted there named Cooper. So I think that he is just bad timing for him to get the ultimate respect as an ACC player, but he still was first team. He still was up there. So, and he's 7 feet tall and has a jumper. So, and I was talking to some of my colleagues, I said, you know, he has all the acumen to make it to this next level. It just has to be, like you said before, go to the right team. Because you can go to the wrong team and people forget about how good you were.
This is a good draft. This is a better draft than people are giving it credit for.
Right.
I look at it because I look at the Tendex number. There's a lot of good players in this draft. But a lot of these freshmen are going to get pushed ahead. And why it's such a good draft, a lot of these freshmen are going to get pushed ahead of these guys. So these guys are going to be like late first, second, and nobody's going to pay attention to them. And people say, oh, this guy's a steal, when he should have been, a top 10, top 15 pick coming out of the draft.
Right.
You know what, John, I was watching Trajan Langdon press conference just yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, talking about, you do the pre-grad press conference. And the Pistons are picking 37. Man, he was sounding very confident. He's saying, guys, we're going to get a good player that fits the way we want to play Detroit Pistons basketball.
What do they need? What do they need?
They need a little more size, but I think they like this guy from Tennessee, a wing from Tennessee.
We talking about Chaz Lanier?
Yeah, they like Lanier, but I think they will go many different ways there. But they would like to get a little bigger, I think, because you got Stewart at 6'8", Jalen Duren is 6'10". So get a little bigger there. They got Ivy. This team didn't have Ivy when they made their run. So they got Ivy.
Maybe Mike's guy. He's a big guy. The guy from Creighton. Those are 2 7-footers. I'll tell you another guy to watch is you saw the kid for Indiana. How you pronounce his name? Nembhard. His brother is coming out. Played at Gonzaga. He's got a good Tendex rating. Yeah. He's a little bit smaller than his brother, but he's a good ball player. A good guy off the bench.
Well, the cutoff point on being a quality player, let me see, you actually explained it up here. It says collegiate averages are 340 for shooting guards, 350 for point guards, 390 for small forwards, 450 for forwards and centers, and 470 for centers. Mm-hmm. And then you have a place for combo players, getting a few more points. And then you have somebody like Flagg who can play both positions, and he just jumps off the charts at 974. What becomes a borderline guy for the Tendex rating?
As far as is he good enough? Is he good enough?
In terms of numbers. Is that,
if you're around plus
200, right kind of question, JD.
Plus 200, but here you got to look at it differently. Like if a freshman is plus 200, he might progress. If he stayed in college, he might end up when his career is over, he might end up at plus 275. Whereas you draft a senior who's plus 200, that's kind of like where he's going to be. So if there's a senior who's plus 200 and a freshman who's plus 200, and they come in the draft, you take the freshman, because he's got more room for growth, where the senior is pretty much. But I would say 200 is kind of not the cutoff point, but that gives you an indication that the guy can be a decent NBA player or possibly even a lottery pick.
But you get 300.
So Flagg's look at where Flagg is at. He's at plus 574, which is just astronomical. Over, if he was plus 300, he would be considered a great player. So he's just like at a different level.
So how do ratings work if you like a super senior? These guys be transferring or utilizing the whole COVID extra time thing. So what about somebody comes out, they're like 27 or something like that because they stayed so long? So how would that work with their ratings?
If the rating is really good, it depends on the rating now. Now, if you're an older guy and you just got like a mediocre and you bounced around from school to school,
right,
and just all you got rating wise, I ain't gonna waste my time with you. But if you got a high rating,
Yeah.
maybe there was a reason why you went from, you needed to go to another situation where I'll tell you the guy I like, who I have number 2. Well, Nick Clifford from Colorado State.
I was going to ask you about him.
I like him a lot. I think he's going to maybe be a late first round pick. Somebody good is going to get him, a good team. The guy, he doesn't necessarily have Scottie Pippen's athleticism, but it reminds me of him. He can do everything. He can score, rebound, block shots, pass. He just needs, I guess, a little bit better jump shot. But he had a very high rating, and they almost beat Maryland in the tournament. Maryland beat him on the last second shot. He played very well. He missed a couple of jumpers late, and NBA teams will probably hold that against him. But I like him a lot. I think he has the potential to be a really, really good NBA player.
Well, especially since you mentioned Maryland, what about Queen?
Index loves him. It all depends. Some people are kind of down on him, I've read, where some people, for whatever reason, I don't really pay attention to that. I look at what his numbers for a freshman, his numbers are really high.
Right.
And if a freshman's able to put up numbers like that, you know what I'm saying? That tells me that he can play in this league at a high level. I like him. I like him a lot.
I was on a show with Paul Mokeski. We do our show on Mondays. And Paul, who, of course, played 12 years, scouted, assistant coach, he says the NBA has gone backwards since he's got out of business. If you're 22, 23, you're too old now. He thinks just the opposite. He said, I like the juniors and seniors because you said it, Eric, they played in big games. You're a junior, senior playing out of Kentucky. You probably played in front of bigger crowds than some of the NBA guys.
Yeah.
And the scrutiny. And he said in this draft that there are going to be some seniors who make a difference on some rosters.
I agree. I agree. You're going to hear these announcers about they're going to pontificate and tell you about all these freshmen. And now I'll tell you one senior we're forgetting who Tindex loves is the Florida guard. I think he's got potential to be special. Walter Clayton Jr.
Yeah.
Tindex loves him. He could be, he showed in college. He's got a special play. He's got the rating to back it up. It'd be one thing if I liked him. I just like Walter Clayton, but he got a rating that's really good. So that combination tells me that he'll have an impact in this league.
Hey guys, we're just gonna go a few more minutes and get ready for the draft. I do want to just get your thoughts on some of the trades that have gone down. Do you think we'll see a lot happen tonight? And the Celtics made a big deal today trading Porzingis to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to look at what Atlanta.
Drew Holiday goes to Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he's too happy with that.
He's probably still mad about Milwaukee shipping him off.
Yeah.
Even though he got a championship to digest it better, but I mean, why does he seem to be like this rotating chess piece? So like, what are we doing? But I guess they've realized that next year is going to be pretty much a non-issue with JT.
Well, my thing about Porzingis, can he stay on the floor?
Probably not.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like they're trying to go in a whole different direction when JT comes back.
And JD, your thoughts on KD being traded?
Oh, yeah.
Mike, I want you to jump in on this too. Man, Houston, Phoenix, when Matt Ishbia, former Michigan State Spartan, bought that team, he went in big with the big three out there, Booker, Durant, and Bradley Beal. That did not.
God, that was hard.
He gave up a ton of draft picks.
Yeah.
And now he's just
what seems to be the common denominator, though? Think about that.
I was going to ask Kevin Durant, your thoughts on that? Obviously, this guy's a terrific player.
Yeah, I think he's a great play, great scorer. I just don't know. I thought Houston panicked. I mean, they're young. They lost. They went 7 games with Golden State, right? Their inexperience showed in that last game against
Okay.
Golden State. But they're on the right path. Kevin Durant. I mean, what's that guy from Auburn that they have? Isn't he like a duplication of Kevin Durant, the guy from Auburn that shoots
Jabari
three?
Smith.
Okay, now guess what? He ain't gonna get as many shots because
Right.
they do the same thing, right? They shoot threes. They shoot
Yeah.
long jump shots. So guess what? He ain't gonna get as many shots next year. Durant
Yeah.
gonna take those shots. So how does that impact his development? That'll be interesting to see. I liked Houston the way they were. I thought they were going the right way.
Yeah, they re-signed Van Fleet. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like. I mean, look at the NBA. Durant, LeBron, Curry. The league is going in a different direction, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. We look at Oklahoma City now. The younger players, you look at Minnesota, the younger players. I mean, that's where the league is going. You can't turn the clock back. I know the league wants to turn it back, but you can't turn it back. It's going the other way. Sorry.
and do you think the so-called the super team era is over? Because you look at OKC's a homegrown.
Done. Well, the problem with that is you ain't got a lot of brilliant general managers out there. So if we're assuming that everybody's going to be like Sam Presti, yeah, but that ain't the case, unfortunately. So they're going to be, bad draft picks made, bad trades made. But yeah, if people are smart enough to make good moves, you could see that happen.
Yeah, and because Mike, no matter how good your big three is, you still need guys to play with it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, look, the Lakers have LeBron and Luka, right? And they can't afford anybody else.
Right.
We learned from Oklahoma City. Look, we saw how Minnesota dominated the Lakers, right? What do you think Oklahoma City would have done to the Lakers in the playoffs?
Right.
And Minnesota dominated.
You know what though? Sometimes it's matchups though. Sometimes you play better.
You know what they would have done that teams don't do to LeBron? They would have pressed him. Nobody presses LeBron. He just dribbles the ball off the court. Guess what? It wouldn't have happened like that against Indiana, or they would have made him give the ball up. And there's no way on that we had Shea, like he's getting ready to fall out in one of those games. You think LeBron could have played 40 minutes at that pace? Yeah. No.
That guy, LeBron's in just freaking incredible shape, but he's still 40 years old. And they still ask him to do too freaking much.
Too much.
So, and some of that's because they can't get nobody else to go with them because they have no money.
And I'm not enamored with their general manager either. So that's one of the things I was talking about.
And you want to use that one, Rick, a Michigan grad.
Yeah.
You said Michigan State for the owner now.
Yeah.
So Jack Leg agent becomes a general manager. I'm like,
hey, we're gonna get out of here. Final thoughts. Going with you, Mike. What you looking forward to the next 2 days? I don't know who's gonna be watching tomorrow night. I guess I'll trade back and forth.
Well, you know what?
Where's Bronny? Where's Bronny when you need him? Where's Bronny when you need him?
Exactly. What's funny though is that, like I was saying to you before, it used to be 3 rounds as recently as '88, and then '89 became the first time it was 2 rounds.
Anthony Mason,
Mason went 3rd round. So, but yeah, for me, I think that it's gonna be the whole big deal with Cooper. And then when you get down to the bottom of the 1st round, it's going to be like, okay, who's going to stay in the 1st round? Who's going to go in the 2nd round? And of course, the 2nd round is not going to be as enticing as it was last year with Bronny, like you said. So, yeah, I think like most people are going to watch day 1 and they might glance at day 2, especially if they got players from their alma mater or somebody they know.
Well, JD, for the 50th year in a row, I'm going to have my phone nearby in case I get a
Here's my prediction. Oklahoma City's going to trade up in the 1st round with their gazillion draft picks.
They do have a lot, though. Yeah, you're
They're going to move up in the 1st round. That's my prediction.
We will count before we went on the ad, Mike. Between now and 30, I think. Did I say 12 or 13?
Yeah. What's the point of keeping all of them?
And so many 2nd round draft picks.
Yeah. They're going to
move up. One thing, no matter how good they are, as we see, you got to have you guys healthy. Guys, tell me who's healthy. Your final thoughts, JD. And before we get there, let me throw your Tomlin piece out there. Soul of a coach. the solo big football coach, available anywhere.
Oh, man, too bad we can't talk about the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers and that whole
Well,
thing.
they're going to have to read the paperback edition in the fall. We'll cover all that.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the paperback coming out in the fall. We'll touch on all those things.
He ain't going
Yes.
into Pittsburgh trying to run shit with this dude around. I guarantee you that. JD, final thoughts. What you gonna be watching for tonight?
What am I going? I will see what happens with the seniors. I know the freshmen are going to get picked high. I want to see if a team takes let's go tell me something about that team. If one of these seniors that I love goes high, other than Walter Clayton Jr., I'm going to keep my eye on that team because they're going to say, you know what? There's some good basketball players out there. And, maybe we don't want to sit around 2 or 3 years and see if this guy can develop. So I'm going to keep my eye on the seniors.
And let me just add this because as I was mentioning, my great friend Paul McKesson talked the other night. He was scouting he was a scout in Dallas, Charlotte, and these guys wanted to pick this 18-year-old kid. He said he might be a good player, but by the time he's a good player, we're gonna be fired, man. We're picking this shit time. We need somebody that can play right now.
Yes.
That's a great point.
What happened? Why did we get away from that? I don't know. What happened? What happened? You had LeBron, you had Kobe, but that's just a handful of guys.
Yeah.
There's only 2 or 3 or 4 guys that could do that.
That's only right.
And Kobe didn't start off right away. You had to wait a couple years for Kobe.
Right.
The only ones that really was ready right away, him, Dwight Howard, maybe Stoudemire, because Stoudemire actually stole the Rookie of the Year from
that's right.
Ryan Butler, but that's another story. But those are the 3 that really did it because Kwame, he was the first high school number 1 ever. And you know how his career went. But he didn't help that Lakers second dynasty with Kobe, because Paul Gasol came over there for him. I still think that was a lopsided trade. But I think maybe those are the 3 that right away, because even Kevin Garnett took him a little bit.
Took a while.
Those 3 right away were like dominant.
Bro, that jump from college to the NBA is like jumping over a cliff.
Right.
From high school to the NBA, man, it is incredible.
Yeah.
Well, and let's not forget, it all started with Daryl Dawkins, because Moses Malone was the ABA. Moses Malone was the ABA, but the first high schooler to go to the NBA out of Florida, Daryl Chocolate Thunder Dawkins.
But we're gonna get out of here.
So this is the anniversary.
We gotta get out of
Dr.
here.
Duncanstein.
We gotta get out of here, guys. Thank you so much, my friend and friend brother Michael Robinson, JD Harris. Thank you so much, brother.